three obstacle of healthy grieving. There's two ways of grieving. There's a healthy way of grieving and there's a not healthy way of grieving. And grief is not just death, by the way. Grief is the loss of something that you're very familiar with, something you're used to, and all of a sudden it changes. It could be a person, but it could be a work, it could be what's going on in our world or what's going on in your personal life. So it's not just death, okay? But here is the wrong way that we deal with our grief. Number one, when we're grieving, we're fleeing from our grief. We try to flee from the pain. So fleeing is not the best way to grieve. And what do I mean by fleeing is not the best way to grieve? What I mean by that is this. We get really busy we distract ourselves. We redirect our attention. We redirect our grief to do something different. So we either will change the subject when the grief shows up, or somebody else will change the subject and make it about them, so that causes us to also flee from it, or we will overwork, right? We'll overwork, we will keep busy, we will just keep going without stopping. So that right there is fleeing from the grief. And I've spoken to many people that go through that and they just keep running. But the thing about grief, it doesn't stop. It'll keep following. So, all right, so that's number one. That's the unhealthy way of grieving. The second unhealthy way of grieving is when we're trying to fix the pain. One, you flee from the pain. The other one, you try to fix it. Well, Mickey, isn't that a good thing? No, when you're fixing it with your head versus your heart, okay? Your heart, the heart is not a broken thing, right? You do have a broken heart, but you don't have a broken brain in a sense, right? So you're trying to use the head to fix the heart, which is the wrong tool. So what does that look like in life? Well, that's when we start to intellectualize grief. We start to read books about grief. We start to get into the mental state and we disconnect from our heart. Again, it's a way to add to your knowledge without feeling the pain. So that's another way. And people will say to you, like, hey, you know what? They're in a better place. Or it's an intellectual comment, not an emotional one that connects with your heart. They may be in a better place, but that's not the right timing maybe for that person to hear. It goes to the head, not the heart. So we say it to ourselves as well. So that's an unhealthy way to grieve as well. The last unhealthy way to grieve is when you are trying to actually feel the pain. When you're filling up the pain instead of dealing with the pain, it's what happens. You're going to have to keep on filling up the pain. And that's where addiction is born, by the way. That's when we overeat, we overwork, we overdo things, or we get into fantasy, we overwatch TV, we do things to just really numb the pain. But we're not just numbing the pain, we're taking that short energy relieving behavior and we're using it to forget about the pain. Problem with that is you're only forgetting it for a short period of time. It's like burying somebody alive. What do you think is going to happen when you wake them up and you say, oh, that was a joke? They're going to come at you and they're going to get mad at you, right? It's the same thing with our pain. Same thing with our emotion. When you put that underneath the ground and you bury it, it's like burying it alive. When it pops out, then you have what? Fit of rage. When you have what? Road rage. You have all these rages that are going on because of this undealt and processed grief. So those are the three unhealthy ways to grief. So let's talk about three things that we can do in order to get to grieve better, and also to be able to be there for other people that are grieving. Also, it's one thing to deal with your grief; it's another thing to deal with somebody else's grief. So number one is you need to relate to the grief. So okay, well, how do I relate to the grief? First of all, redefine grief. Grief is not; it's a natural way the body and the mind goes through. It's a natural way of dealing with the health. It's actually natural. It's good. It's not an enemy. And I know you were told, probably growing up, to not feel bad, to go to your room, you know what I mean? Like crying was a bad thing, like grieving was a bad thing. So in your mind, you're still thinking that way. So we got to redefine it, but we got to relate to grief. That means you have to have a different relationship with grief. All right. The second thing, we need to release the intellectual mind so we could connect with the heart. So the heart could grieve. So we need to let go. And you need to reconnect. We need to actually release the connection to the always being in your head. And you need to drop down into your heart in order for you to be not only able to relate to other people, you need also to release that trying to fix it thing. And because you see, if you're trying to fix it, you're going to try to fix everybody else too. And when they're grieving, like I said, they don't need to be fixed. The biggest thing that somebody that's going through grief, they just need to be heard. They need to hear. They need someone to be able to hear, and you need someone to just be able to hear you. And a lot of things that you're going to say is not going to really make sense, quote unquote. The logical mind will tell you, well, why are you grieving about this guy? He's an actor. You're not connected with him. You don't know him. You don't know. Well, guess what? You actually, it doesn't matter. Whether it's close or far away, don't question, just relate and release and allow yourself to go through that process and allow yourself to be heard. Okay. Lastly, we get to receive. We get to receive recovery. You can't release until you can't receive until you release. And so the receiving of recovery is receiving the self-care that you need. The process of going through recovery from your grief is just, it has to be your decision. And by the way, whenever you're ready is when is the right time. A lot of time people think that other people need to, quote unquote, get to the recovery of their grief because they're uncomfortable. No, it has to do with you. It's whenever you're ready is the time. So never rush grief. You can't say, hurry up and heal. That's not going to work. So don't hurry yourself up to heal, but do release, just release the intellectual comment and trying to fix it, feel it, right? And start the process. Well, thank you so much for watching my videos. Please do subscribe if you like the video, and please share it. And also click on the bell button there so you can be notified with any new videos that I come out with. Thank you.